I never thought a simple question on Mother's Day would unravel everything I believed about my relationship with my son. But there I was, standing in the kitchen of my modest two-bedroom apartment, holding a bouquet of expensive roses that Marcus had sent, when his voice came through the phone speaker with those words that would change everything. Marcus. Mom, did you thank Renata for the $2,000? The question hung in the air like smoke. I felt my chest tighten, my fingers gripping the edge of the counter until my knuckles turned white. Renata. His wife. The woman who had become a stranger to me over the past 5 years, despite being married to my only child. I should probably start from the beginning. My name is Diana Chen, and I'm 53 years old. I work as a senior administrative assistant at a mid-sized accounting firm in downtown Seattle. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. Well, most of them anyway. I've been doing this job for almost 20 years, ever since Marcus's father walked out when Marcus was 7. That's when I learned what it really meant to be alone, to carry the weight of raising a child without a partner, without a safety net. Those early years were brutal. I worked 2 jobs for a while, the office during the day and cleaning houses on weekends. Marcus never knew about the second job. I'd tell him I was going to visit friends or run errands. I didn't want him to feel the shame of our poverty, didn't want him to carry that burden. Kids at his school came from money, real money, and I wanted him to fit in, to have the same opportunities. I remember one particular incident when Marcus was in 4th grade. He came home devastated because he was the only kid in his class who didn't have the latest gaming console. He didn't ask for it directly, but I saw the pain in his eyes, the way he tried to hide it. I picked up extra shifts for 3 months, saved every penny, and surprised him on his birthday. The look on his face made every exhausted bone in my body worth it. That became my pattern. Sacrifice, save, give. Marcus excelled in school, got into a prestigious university, and then landed a job at a tech startup that went public. He became a millionaire before he turned 30. My little boy, who I'd raised in a tiny apartment, was now living in a mansion in Bellevue with a wife who wore designer clothes and drove a car that cost more than I'd make in 5 years. I was proud. God, I was so proud. But somewhere along the way, things started to shift. It started small. Marcus would invite me to dinner at their house, and Renata would make comments. Not mean exactly, but pointed. She'd mention how she wished her mother-in-law understood wine better so she could appreciate the vintage they were serving. She'd talk about charity galas and imply that I wouldn't fit in because I didn't own the right kind of evening gown. She'd suggest, sweetly, that maybe I should consider updating my wardrobe so I wouldn't feel out of place at their company events. I tried to brush it off. Renata came from money, old money, the kind of family that had vacation homes and investment portfolios going back generations. She didn't understand what it was like to choose between paying the electric bill or buying groceries. How could she? But Marcus, my Marcus, he started to change too. He'd always been thoughtful, always remembered birthdays and holidays. But after he married Renata, things became different. The gifts got more expensive, but less personal. Instead of calling to chat, he'd send text messages. Our weekly dinners became monthly, then every few months. Last Christmas, they gave me a gift certificate to a spa. $500. Renata had smiled and said it was because I looked stressed, that I needed to take better care of myself. I thanked them, hugged Marcus, and went home and cried. Not because the gift was bad, but because it felt like charity. It felt like they were trying to fix me, to make me more acceptable. The money issue started about 6 months before this Mother's Day. I'd been struggling more than usual. My car had broken down, needed a new transmission that cost $1,800. I'd been taking the bus to work, which added an hour to my commute each way. Marcus noticed and asked about it. I tried to play it off, said the bus was better for the environment, that I was thinking of getting rid of my car anyway. He saw through it. He always could read me, even now. Marcus. Mom, let me help you. Please. I have more money than I know what to do with. Me. Sweetie, I'm fine. Really. I've managed this long, I can manage a little longer. Marcus. It's not about managing. You shouldn't have to struggle like this. Let me transfer you some money for the car repair. I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to say yes so badly. But something in me, that stubborn pride that had gotten me through all those years alone, wouldn't let me. Me. Marcus, I appreciate it. But no. I'll figure it out. 2 days later, $2,000 appeared in my bank account. I called Marcus immediately. Me. Marcus, I told you I didn't want you to send money. Marcus. I didn't send it, Mom. Renata did. She felt bad about your situation and wanted to help. Just accept it, okay? It's already done. That's when the first crack appeared in my heart. Not because of the money itself, but because it came from Renata. Because it felt like pity, like she was the benevolent, wealthy woman helping the poor mother-in-law. And Marcus, instead of understanding why that hurt me, just wanted me to be grateful. I used the money. I had to. I got my car fixed. But every time I drove it, I felt that $2,000 weight sitting on my chest. Now on Mother's Day, standing in my kitchen with those expensive roses, Marcus's question echoed in my mind. Marcus, Mom, did you thank Renata for the $2,000? Me, What? Marcus, Renata mentioned that you never thanked her for helping with your car. She said she didn't want to bring it up, but it's been months, and she feels like you don't appreciate what she did. The world tilted. I set the roses down carefully, afraid I might throw them otherwise. Me. Marcus, I thanked her the day the money came through. I called her cell phone and left a message. I also sent a handwritten thank you card. Marcus. Well, she says she never got either. Look, Mom, I know you're proud, but Renata was trying to do something nice. The least you could do is show some gratitude. Something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, but like a thread that had been pulled too tight for too long. Me. Marcus, I need you to hear me right now. I called Renata on March 15th at 3:30 in the afternoon. I left a 2-minute voicemail thanking her for her generosity. I mailed a card on March 17th, a cream-colored card with purple flowers on the front. I wrote an entire page thanking her and expressing how much I appreciated her thoughtfulness. If she says she didn't receive either, then I don't know what to tell you. But I did thank her. There was silence on the other end. I could hear him breathing, could almost see him processing this information. Marcus. Mom, I'm sure there's just some miscommunication here. Me. Is there? Or does Renata want you to think I'm ungrateful so she can feel superior? Marcus. That's not fair. Renata has been nothing but kind to you. Me. Kind? Marcus, do you remember last Thanksgiving? When Renata suggested I might be more comfortable eating in the kitchen with the catering staff because the dining room conversation was going to be about investment strategies I wouldn't understand. Marcus. She was trying to make sure you didn't feel left out. Me. By excluding me? By treating me like the help? Marcus. You're being dramatic. Renata comes from a different background, that's all. She's just trying to include you in our life. Me. No, Marcus. She's trying to make me fit into her idea of what your mother should be, and you're letting her. The conversation ended badly. Marcus said I was being ungrateful and difficult. I said he'd forgotten where he came from. We both said things we couldn't take back. After I hung up, I sat on my couch for a long time, holding those roses and crying. Not delicate tears, but the kind of sobbing that comes from deep in your chest, the kind that makes you question everything. Had I failed as a mother? Had I raised Marcus to be ashamed of me? Or had I loved him so much, protected him so thoroughly from our financial struggles that he genuinely didn't understand what his wife was doing? The next few weeks were silent. Marcus didn't call. I didn't reach out. Mother's Day came and went without any further contact. I worked, came home, and tried not to think about how badly everything had fallen apart. Then, on a random Tuesday in June, my doorbell rang at 7 in the evening. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door to find Marcus standing there, and he looked terrible. His eyes were red, his usually perfect hair was disheveled, and he was wearing jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt, nothing like his usual polished appearance. Marcus, can I come in? I stepped aside, and he walked into my small living room like he was seeing it for the first time. He looked around at the modest furniture, the photos on the walls, the secondhand bookshelf I'd refinished myself. Marcus. I found the card. Me. What? Marcus. Your thank you card to Renata. I was looking for some documents in her desk, and I found it. In a drawer, unopened. She'd hidden it. I didn't say anything. What could I say? Marcus. I confronted her about it. She admitted she never listened to your voicemail either. She said she wanted me to see you differently, to understand that you were from a different class, that you didn't have proper manners or gratitude. He sat down heavily on my couch, his head in his hands. Marcus, I've been so stupid, Mom. So incredibly stupid. I sat down next to him, my heart breaking for him even as I was still angry. Me, tell me what happened. And he did. He told me everything. How Renata had been slowly isolating him from me, making comments about how I was holding him back, how I didn't fit into their world, how she'd convinced him that helping me financially was enabling my poverty mindset, that I needed to learn to stand on my own, how she'd reframed every kind gesture I made as manipulation, every decline of their help as stubborn pride. Marcus. She showed me screenshots of text messages you'd supposedly sent her, being rude and demanding. But Mom, when I really looked at them, the phone number was wrong. She'd faked them. Me. Why would she do that? Marcus. Because her parents didn't approve of her marrying someone whose mother was working class. She thought if she could create enough distance between us, they'd stop seeing you as a reflection on her. She wanted to erase where I came from. I felt a strange mixture of vindication and sadness. Vindication because I wasn't crazy. I hadn't imagined the subtle digs and the cold treatment. Sadness because my son had been manipulated, and because his marriage was built on lies. Me. What are you going to do? Marcus. I don't know. I love her, Mom. Or at least I thought I did. But I don't know who she really is anymore. We sat in silence for a while. Then Marcus started talking, really talking. For the first time in years. Marcus, do you remember when I was 12 and I wanted to quit piano lessons because some kids at school said it was for girls? I smiled despite everything. Me. You came home crying, said you'd never play again. Marcus, you didn't yell at me or tell me I was being silly. You sat down at that old keyboard we had, the one you'd bought at a garage sale, and you played. I didn't even know you could play. Me. I took lessons when I was young. My parents couldn't afford to continue them, but I remembered some. Marcus. You played this beautiful piece, and when you finished, you told me that anything worth doing would have people who didn't understand it. You said the question wasn't whether other people approved, but whether it brought me joy. You asked me if playing piano brought me joy. Me. And you said it did. Marcus. I kept playing. Made it all the way through high school, even performed at a few recitals. And you know what? When I was stressed in college, I'd find a practice room and play. It saved me during finals week more times than I can count. When I landed my first big contract at work, I celebrated by buying a grand piano. It's sitting in our music room, and I haven't played it in 2 years because Renata says it's a waste of space. His voice cracked on that last sentence. Marcus, when did I stop listening to my own joy? Me. When you started trying to become someone you thought you should be instead of who you are. Marcus. I've been so awful to you. All those comments I let Renata make, all the times I chose her version of events over yours, all the ways I tried to make you fit into this life instead of bringing my real life to you. Me. Marcus, you fell in love. That's not a crime. Marcus. But I forgot about my first love. You, Mom. You were my first love. The person who taught me what unconditional support looked like. And I abandoned you for someone who only loved the version of me she wanted to create. We both cried then. Not the angry tears from our phone call, but the cleansing kind. The kind that comes when you finally acknowledge a truth you've been avoiding. Marcus. I need to figure out my marriage. I don't know if it's salvageable, and honestly, I'm not sure I want it to be. But more than that, I need to figure out who I am again. Who I am without Renata telling me who to be. Me. That's going to be hard. Marcus. Will you help me? Me. Always. I'm your mother. That doesn't come with conditions. Over the next several months, I watched Marcus go through one of the hardest periods of his life. He moved into a hotel first, then got his own apartment. Not a mansion, just a nice 2-bedroom place in Capitol Hill. He started therapy, began playing piano again, reconnected with old friends he'd lost touch with. Renata fought the separation viciously. She tried to turn their mutual friends against him, claimed he was having a breakdown, even threatened to take everything in the divorce. But Marcus had discovered something important. He didn't need the mansion or the luxury cars or the status. He needed authenticity. During this time, Marcus started coming over for dinner once a week. Not fancy dinners at expensive restaurants, just simple meals at my apartment. I'd make spaghetti or chicken stir-fry, and we'd sit at my small kitchen table and talk. Really talk. About everything and nothing. One evening, about 4 months into his separation, Marcus brought over groceries and insisted on cooking for me. He made his grandmother's recipe for pot roast, something I hadn't made in years because it took so much time. Marcus. Grandma Chen taught me this recipe when I was 16. Do you remember? She said every Chen should know how to make it. Me. I remember. You spent the whole day in her kitchen, taking notes like you were in chemistry class. Marcus. I loved those days with her. She'd tell me stories about growing up in China, about coming to America with nothing, about building a life from scratch. She was a lot like you, Mom. Strong, resilient, never complained even when things were hard. Me. She'd be proud of you, for having the courage to start over. Marcus. I'm not starting over. I'm coming back to myself. He served the pot roast, and it was perfect. We ate slowly, savoring both the food and the comfortable silence between us. Marcus. The divorce should be final next month. Renata is getting the house and most of the investment portfolio. I'm keeping the business and enough to live comfortably. Me. How do you feel about that? Marcus. Relieved, actually. That house never felt like home. It felt like a museum, a place where I had to be careful not to touch anything or make noise. This apartment I'm in now? It's smaller than our guest house was, but it's mine. I can play piano at midnight if I want. I can eat cereal for dinner. I can be messy. Me. So you're saying I raised you right, and then you forgot, and now you're remembering? Marcus. Exactly that. We both laughed, and it felt good. It felt like us again. But my journey wasn't just about reconnecting with Marcus. It was about confronting my own patterns and beliefs. In therapy sessions that Marcus convinced me to try, I started unpacking why I'd been so resistant to accepting help, why I'd built my identity around struggle and sacrifice. I'll never forget my first therapy session. I sat in Dr. Patricia Okonkwo's office, a cozy space with warm lighting and comfortable chairs, feeling completely out of place. I'd never been to therapy before. In my generation, in my community, you just dealt with your problems. You didn't pay someone to listen to you talk about your feelings. Dr. Okonkwo was a Nigerian-American woman in her early 50s, with kind eyes and a direct manner that I came to appreciate. She didn't let me hide behind platitudes or deflections. Dr. Okonkwo. Diana, tell me why you're here. Me. My son suggested it. We had a falling out, and we're working on repairing our relationship. He thought therapy might help me process some things. Dr. Okonkwo. What things? Me. I don't know. I guess how I handle help from people, how I see myself. Dr. Okonkwo. Let's start with a specific example. Tell me about a time when someone offered to help you and you refused. That's when I told her about the car, about Marcus's offer and my refusal, about Renata's money and how it made me feel. Dr. Okonkwo listened without interrupting, her expression neutral but attentive. Dr. Okonkwo. Diana, why do you think you had to refuse Marcus's help with the car? Me. Because I didn't want to be a burden. Dr. Okonkwo. But you're his mother. You spent decades ensuring he wasn't burdened. Why can't he return that care? Me. It's different. Parents are supposed to sacrifice for their children, not the other way around. Dr. Okonkwo. Says who? That question hit me like a physical blow. Says who? I opened my mouth to answer and realized I didn't have one. It was just something I'd always believed, something I'd absorbed from my mother, from society, from the world around me. Dr. Okonkwo. I want you to think about that question this week. Where did that belief come from? Who taught you that? And most importantly, is it serving you now? Over the next several weeks, I did think about it. I thought about it constantly. Where had I learned that accepting help was weakness? Why had I equated my worth with my ability to struggle alone? I traced it back to my own childhood, to my mother who had worked herself into an early grave, trying to prove she could manage without my father after he left. I remembered being 8 years old, watching her come home exhausted from her factory job, her hands raw and swollen. I'd asked her why she didn't ask Aunt Wei for help, and she'd looked at me with such fierce pride. Mom, we don't need anyone's help, Diana. We take care of ourselves. That's what strong women do. I'd internalized that message so deeply that it became part of my identity. Strong women don't ask for help. Strong women handle everything alone. Strong women sacrifice until there's nothing left. But in Dr. Okonkwo's office, I started to question that narrative for the first time. Dr. Okonkwo, your mother did what she thought was best with the tools she had. But Diana, she died at 51 from a heart attack brought on by stress and overwork. Is that the legacy you want to continue? Is that what you want to model for your grandchildren? The word grandchildren made me freeze. I hadn't told her about Amanda's pregnancy yet. Me. How did you know? Dr. Okonkwo. I didn't. But the way you talked about Marcus and Amanda, the softness in your voice, I suspected. Congratulations. Me. Thank you. And no, I don't want that to be the legacy. But I don't know how to be different. This is who I've been for over 50 years. Dr. Okonkwo. Who you've been doesn't have to be who you are. You can choose differently, starting right now. In another session, we dug even deeper. Dr. Okonkwo asked me to make a list of every time I'd felt shame about money or class growing up. The list was longer than I expected. Being the only kid at school with free lunch, wearing clothes from the donation bin at church, having my electricity shut off when I was 13 because mom couldn't pay the bill, the way my 10th grade English teacher had looked at me when I said I couldn't afford the class trip to the museum. Dr. Okonkwo, these experiences shaped you. They taught you that being poor meant being less than, that needing help meant being shameful. But Diana, you were a child. None of that was your fault or your mother's fault. You were both victims of a system that doesn't support single-parent families. Me. But I'm not a child anymore. I should be over it. Dr. Okonkwo. Trauma doesn't work that way. These wounds don't heal just because time passes. You have to actively work on healing them. And part of that work is separating your worth from your financial situation. Me. But how? When the world constantly sends the message that poor people are lazy or stupid or somehow deserving of their poverty? Dr. Okonkwo. By recognizing that those messages are lies. By looking at your own life. You worked 2 jobs to raise your son. You never stopped trying, never gave up. You got him into a good school, supported his dreams, sacrificed your own comfort for his well-being. That's not lazy or stupid. That's heroic. I started crying then. Not delicate tears, but deep, gut-wrenching sobs. Because no one had ever called me heroic before. No one had ever acknowledged how hard I'd worked, how much I'd sacrificed, how much courage it took to keep going when everything felt impossible. Dr. Okonkwo handed me tissues and waited patiently until I could speak again. Dr. Okonkwo. What if accepting help isn't about weakness? What if it's about allowing people who love you to express that love in the ways they're able to? Me. But Renata didn't send that money out of love. Dr. Okonkwo. No, she didn't. But Marcus did. Marcus wanted to help you, wanted to ease your burden. Renata may have been the vehicle, but the intention came from your son's love. And you rejected it because you couldn't separate the gesture from the messenger. That realization broke something open in me. I'd been so focused on protecting my pride that I'd rejected Marcus's love. Not intentionally, but the effect was the same. In yet another session, Dr. Okonkwo introduced me to the concept of inherited trauma. Dr. Okonkwo, your mother's beliefs about self-reliance didn't start with her. They likely came from her mother, who came from a culture and time period where women had to be incredibly strong to survive. But what worked for survival in one context can become destructive in another context. Me. So you're saying my grandmother's strength became my mother's stubbornness, which became my isolation. Dr. Okonkwo. I'm saying that patterns get passed down through generations, and sometimes we don't question them until they cause us pain. The fact that you're here, doing this work, means you're breaking that cycle. Your grandchild won't inherit this pattern because you're choosing to heal it now. That thought gave me hope. Maybe my struggles weren't meaningless. Maybe by doing this painful work of self-examination and growth, I was giving my future grandchild a different legacy. Not one of shame and isolation, but one of authenticity and connection. In our next dinner together, I brought it up. Me, Marcus, I need to apologize to you. Marcus. For what? Me. For not accepting your help more gracefully over the years. You were trying to show love, and I was so caught up in my own fear of being seen as weak or needy that I couldn't receive it. Marcus. Mom, you don't need to apologize for that. Me. Yes, I do. I taught you to be generous and kind, and then I refused to let you be those things with me. That must have been confusing and hurtful. Marcus. It was frustrating sometimes. I just wanted to make your life easier, the way you'd always made mine easier. But I also understand why it was hard for you. You'd been on your own for so long. Me. I don't want to be that way anymore. I don't want my pride to come between us. Marcus. What are you saying? Me. I'm saying that if you offer to help me with something, and it comes from a genuine place, I want to learn to accept it. Not as charity, not as pity, but as love. Marcus reached across the table and took my hand. Marcus. And I promise to offer help in ways that respect your independence and dignity. We'll figure this out together, okay? Me. Okay. That conversation marked a turning point for both of us. Marcus started asking before helping, respecting my boundaries while still offering support. I started being honest about when I was struggling, instead of hiding it behind false pride. When my apartment's heating system broke in the middle of winter, I called Marcus. Me. Hey, so my heater died, and the landlord says it'll be 3 days before he can get someone out here. I'm trying to decide if I should get a space heater or just pile on blankets. Marcus. Or you could stay at my place until it's fixed. I have a guest room, and it's not like I'm using it. Old me would have insisted on the blankets. New me took a breath. Me. That would actually be really helpful. Thank you. Marcus. I'll come get you in an hour. Those 3 days at Marcus's apartment were special. We fell into an easy routine. He'd make coffee in the morning before heading to work. I'd cook dinner in the evening. We'd watch old movies we both loved, the kind Renata had always dismissed as lowbrow. On the second night, while we were watching a classic kung fu film my mother had loved, Marcus turned to me. Marcus. I've been thinking about something. My company is expanding, and we need someone to manage our administrative operations. Someone organized, detail-oriented, good with people. Me. Okay? Marcus. The position pays almost double what you're making now, has better benefits, and you'd have your own office. I want to offer it to you. My first instinct was to refuse. It felt like nepotism, like taking advantage of my son's success, but I'd promised to think before reacting. Me. Can I ask you something honestly? Marcus. Always. Me. Are you offering me this job because I'm your mother, or because you genuinely think I'm qualified? Marcus. Both. I'm offering it to you because you're qualified and because I trust you. But I wouldn't offer it if I didn't think you could do it. I've seen how you manage chaos at your current job. You juggle schedules, handle difficult clients, keep everything running smoothly. That's exactly what we need. Me. What if it doesn't work out? What if people think I only got the job because of our relationship? Marcus. Then you'll prove them wrong by being excellent at it, which you will be. And as for our relationship, we'll set clear boundaries. At work, I'm your boss. At home, I'm your son. We can separate those roles. Me. Can we? Marcus. We can try, and if it doesn't work, we'll figure something else out. But Mom, I'm not offering this out of pity or obligation. I'm offering it because I genuinely believe you're the best person for this role, and I'd be lucky to have you on my team. I took the job. And Marcus was right. It was challenging, sometimes frustrating, but I was good at it. Better than good. Within 6 months, I'd streamlined their entire administrative process, implemented new systems that saved the company thousands of dollars, and earned the respect of my colleagues. There were awkward moments, certainly. Times when people would make comments about family businesses or nepotism. But I handled each situation with professionalism and let my work speak for itself. One of my colleagues, a sharp woman named Jennifer Martinez, became a good friend. Over lunch one day, she brought up what others were whispering about. Jennifer. People talk, you know. About you being the boss's mother. Me, I know. Jennifer. For what it's worth, I think you're damn good at your job. Better than the guy who had it before you, and he didn't have any family connections. Me. Thank you. That means a lot. Jennifer. Can I ask you something? How do you handle working for your son? Doesn't that feel weird? Me. Sometimes. But we have rules. At work, he's Marcus Chen, CEO. At home, he's Marcus. My kid who still calls me when he has a cold because he thinks he's dying. Jennifer laughed. Jennifer. That's actually kind of beautiful. You figured out how to have multiple kinds of relationships with the same person. Me. We're learning. It's not perfect, but we're learning. The biggest test came about a year into my new job. I made a significant mistake. I'd miscommunicated with a vendor, which resulted in a shipment arriving 2 weeks late and costing the company a substantial amount of money. It was entirely my fault, and I knew it. I walked into Marcus's office and closed the door. Me. We need to talk about the Westfield contract. Marcus looked up from his computer, immediately reading my expression. Marcus. What happened? I explained the mistake, took full responsibility, and offered to have my pay doc to cover the cost. Marcus. Mom, stop. Yes, this was a mistake, but it's fixable. We'll contact Westfield, explain the situation, offer them a discount on their next order. It's not ideal, but it's not catastrophic. Me. I cost the company money. Marcus. You're human. Humans make mistakes. What matters is how we handle it and what we learn from it. Me. If I wasn't your mother, would you fire me? Marcus. If you weren't my mother, would you have admitted to this mistake so quickly and taken full responsibility? Most people would have tried to hide it or blame someone else. The fact that you came straight to me shows integrity. That's worth more than one mistake. Me. I need you to treat me like any other employee. Marcus. I am. Any other employee who showed this level of honesty and accountability would get exactly the same response. We fix the problem, learn from it, and move forward. That moment taught me something important. My fear of special treatment had been making me hold myself to an impossible standard. I didn't need to be perfect to deserve my position. I just needed to be honest, accountable, and willing to learn. The divorce was finalized in the spring. Marcus called me that evening, his voice lighter than I'd heard it in years. Marcus, it's done. I'm officially free. Me. How do you feel? Marcus, like I can breathe again. Like I can finally figure out who I am without someone telling me who I should be. Me. That's beautiful, sweetheart. Marcus. I've been thinking about something. I want to start a scholarship fund. Me. Oh? Marcus. For kids from single-parent households who want to pursue music or arts education. I know how expensive it can be. How many talented kids never get the chance because their parents can't afford lessons or instruments. My throat tightened. Me. Marcus, that's wonderful. Marcus. I want to name it after Grandma Chen. She always believed in using whatever you had to help others. This feels like the right way to honor her memory, and maybe help other kids who are growing up the way I did. Me. She would love that. And you know what? I'd like to contribute too. Marcus. Mom, you don't have to do that. Me. I want to. Not a lot, but something. Even if it's just enough to buy one kid a guitar or pay for one semester of lessons. I want to be part of this. Marcus. We'll do it together then. The scholarship fund became a passion project for both of us. We worked on it together, spent evenings researching the best ways to structure it, interviewed potential recipients. It gave us a shared purpose beyond our family relationship, something we were building together. Setting up the fund was more complex than either of us anticipated. We met with lawyers, accountants, and education consultants. Marcus wanted to do it right, to create something sustainable that would outlast both of us. One evening, we sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by paperwork and half-eaten Chinese takeout, debating the selection criteria. Marcus. I think we should focus on musical talent. That's what got me through the hard times. Me. But what about visual arts, or dance, or theater? There are so many kids with so many different passions. Marcus. You're right. We should be broader. Arts education in general. Me. And it can't just be about talent. Some kids haven't had the chance to develop talent yet because they've never had access to lessons or instruments. How do we identify potential? Marcus. Teacher recommendations? Essays about why they want to pursue arts? Me. What about kids whose teachers don't recognize their potential? or kids who struggle with writing. We went back and forth like this for hours, trying to create a system that was fair but also accessible. We wanted to help the kids who needed it most, but we also recognized that need and talent don't always look the same. Finally, we settled on a multifaceted approach. Applicants would submit a teacher recommendation, a personal statement, information about their family situation, and some kind of portfolio or audition, the format flexible based on their chosen art form. The first year, we were able to award scholarships to 5 students. The selection process was heartbreaking. We received 67 applications, each one representing a talented young person with dreams they couldn't afford to pursue. Choosing only 5 felt impossible. We met each of them, heard their stories. One girl, Maya Thompson, reminded me so much of Marcus at that age. She was 14, tall and lanky with braces and an infectious enthusiasm. Talented, passionate about music, but her single mother worked 2 jobs and couldn't afford piano lessons. Maya played for us at the award ceremony, a piece she'd taught herself from YouTube videos. It was rough in places, technically imperfect, but filled with such raw emotion that I found myself crying. This was what we were fighting for. This unbridled passion. This hunger to create and express. Another recipient was Jamal Williams, a 16-year-old who wanted to study visual arts. His portfolio was stunning, filled with portraits he'd drawn using cheap pencils and notebook paper. He drew his neighbors, his family, scenes from his neighborhood in South Seattle. Each drawing told a story, captured something essential about his subjects. Jamal: I want to go to art school, but my dad thinks it's a waste of time. He wants me to study engineering or business, something practical. This scholarship, it's not just about the money. It's about someone believing that what I do matters. Then there was Sofia Martinez, a dancer whose family had immigrated from El Salvador when she was 6. She'd been taking free classes at a community center, but the program was being cut due to budget issues. Without our scholarship, she would have had to quit dancing entirely. Sophia: Dance is the only place I feel free. When I'm dancing, I'm not worried about my accent or whether my family has enough money for rent. I'm just Sophia, moving and creating. Thank you for letting me keep that. Each of these kids, they weren't just statistics or application numbers. They were real people with real dreams, and we were helping make those dreams possible. The weight of that responsibility was both terrifying and exhilarating. Maya's mother, Christine, pulled me aside at the award ceremony. She was a petite woman with tired eyes and work-worn hands, probably around 40 but looking older from the stress of single parenthood. Christine: I can't thank you enough for this. Maya has been teaching herself from YouTube videos for 2 years. She has so much talent, but I just couldn't make the lessons work financially. Me: I understand. More than you know. Christine: She told me that the application asked about her family situation, about being raised by a single parent. She almost didn't apply because she was embarrassed. Me: I'm glad she did. There's no shame in how we live, only in how we treat others. Christine: That's what I keep telling her, but it helps when someone else says it too, especially someone who's been there. She looked at me with such gratitude, but also with recognition. She saw in me someone who understood the daily calculations of poverty. Which bill to pay first? Which necessity to sacrifice? How to smile and pretend everything was fine when your world was falling apart. Christine: Can I ask you something personal? Me: Of course. Christine: When does it get easier? When do you stop feeling like you're one emergency away from complete disaster? I wanted to lie to her, to offer false comfort, but I respected her too much for that. Me: I wish I could tell you there's a magic moment when all the anxiety disappears, but the truth is, even now, even with financial stability, part of me still lives in survival mode. I still check my bank account obsessively. I still have nightmares about not being able to pay bills. The trauma doesn't just vanish. Christine: That's not very encouraging. Me: But here's what does get easier. You stop feeling ashamed. You start recognizing your own strength. You see your child thriving despite the odds, and you realize you did that. You made that possible. And Christine, Maya is going to remember this. She's going to remember that you worked 2 jobs so she could eat, that you never gave up, that you fought for her dreams even when you could barely pay for necessities. That's worth more than any amount of money. Christine hugged me then, and we both cried. Two mothers who understood each other in a way that people who've never lived paycheck to paycheck never could. Over the next year, we stayed in touch with all 5 scholarship recipients. Marcus and I visited their performances and exhibitions. We checked in on their progress. We connected them with mentors in their fields. It became clear that the scholarships weren't just about money. They were about showing these kids that someone believed in them, that their dreams were valid, that they deserved opportunities. Maya flourished under proper instruction. Her teacher reported that she had remarkable natural talent, and with consistent lessons, she was advancing rapidly. She started performing at local recitals, gaining confidence with each appearance. One day, Maya called me, something she'd started doing occasionally when she needed advice or just wanted to talk. Maya, Ms. Chen, I have to tell you something exciting. My piano teacher thinks I should audition for the youth symphony. Me, in the symphony. Me. Maya, that's wonderful. Are you going to audition? Maya. I want to, but I'm scared. What if I'm not good enough? What if I mess up? Me. Fear means you care. It means this matters to you. But don't let fear keep you from trying. You've already overcome so much. This is just one more challenge. Maya. Did you ever feel like you didn't belong somewhere? Like everyone else deserved to be there, but you were just pretending? Me. Every single day of my professional life. Even now, sometimes I walk into a meeting at work and think, surely someone will realize I don't belong here. But you know what I've learned? That feeling, that's not truth. That's old programming from every time someone made us feel less than. The truth is, you belong anywhere. You have the courage to show up. Maya, I'm going to audition. Even if I'm terrified, I'm going to do it. She did audition, and she made the youth symphony. When Marcus and I attended her first performance, watching her sit among the other young musicians, her face glowing with concentration and joy, I felt something shift inside me. This was legacy. This was purpose. This was what all those years of struggle had been building toward. On Mother's Day, 2 years after that painful phone call, Marcus showed up at my apartment with flowers. Not expensive roses from a florist, but a simple bouquet of daisies from the farmer's market, my favorite. Marcus. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Me. Thank you, sweetheart. These are perfect. Marcus. I got you something else, too. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. I sat down and read it while he watched nervously. The letter thanked me for everything. For raising him with love and values, for teaching him resilience, for showing him that wealth wasn't about money but about richness of character, for being patient while he found his way back to himself, for teaching him eventually that accepting help was a form of strength, not weakness. But the last paragraph made me cry. The letter read, Mom, you asked me once when I stopped listening to my own joy. The truth is, I never stopped. It just got quieter for a while, drowned out by other voices. But you taught me to listen for it, to value it, to protect it. And now I'm teaching other kids to do the same. Every scholarship we award, every young person who gets to pursue their passion because of the fund, that's your legacy. Not just mine, ours. Thank you for showing me what really matters. Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I'd given up on myself. And thank you for teaching me that the best things in life can't be bought. They have to be built with love, patience, and authenticity. I love you, Mom. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. I looked up at Marcus through my tears. Me. This is the best gift you've ever given me. Marcus. Better than the spa certificate? We both laughed, able to joke about it now. Me. So much better. This is real. This is us. Marcus. I have one more thing. It's not a gift exactly, more of a request. Me. Okay? Marcus. I want to start a new tradition. Every Sunday we cook together. Either at my place or yours, doesn't matter. We pick a recipe, make it together, and just hang out. No phones, no work talk unless we want to, just us being together. Me. I would love that. Marcus. And Mom, I want you to teach me more of Grandma's recipes. Not just the pot roast, but all of them. I want to learn the stories that go with each dish, the memories. I want to preserve that part of our history. Me. She had a notebook. Did I ever tell you that? A little spiral notebook where she wrote down all her recipes and notes about where each one came from. I have it in my closet. Marcus, can we start going through it together? Me. Absolutely. That Sunday tradition became sacred to us. We'd spend hours in the kitchen, cooking dishes from Grandma Chen's notebook, laughing at our mistakes, celebrating our successes. Marcus started a food blog documenting our journey through her recipes, sharing the stories behind each dish. It became unexpectedly popular, people responding to the authenticity of our relationship and the way we honored our family history. Work continued to go well. I got a promotion, was put in charge of an entire department. Jennifer became my assistant director, and we made a formidable team. The scholarship fund grew, allowing us to help more students each year. But perhaps the most significant change was in how I saw myself. I was no longer Diana Chen, the struggling single mother who had to do everything alone. I was Diana Chen, period. A woman with a successful career. A mother who had raised a good man. A daughter who was honoring her mother's legacy. A mentor to young professionals. A philanthropist in my own small way. I learned to accept compliments without deflecting. When someone praised my work, I said thank you instead of downplaying it. When Marcus wanted to take me to a nice restaurant for my birthday, I went and enjoyed it instead of worrying about the cost. When the scholarship fund earned recognition from the State Arts Council, I attended the ceremony with my head high. One evening, about 3 years after that Mother's Day phone call, I was sitting in my apartment, now decorated with photos from our scholarship events and framed recipes from Grandma's notebook. Marcus had just left after our Sunday cooking session. We'd made dumplings, and the apartment still smelled of ginger and sesame oil. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Me. Hello? Voice. Diana Chen? This is Rebecca Walsh from the Seattle Times. I'm writing a feature on innovative family businesses and mentorship programs in the city. Your son's company and your scholarship fund came up in my research. I was hoping to interview you. Me. Me? Wouldn't you want to interview Marcus? Rebecca. I'd like to interview both of you, but your story is the one that really interests me. A woman who raised a son as a single parent, worked her way up in her career, and is now using her position to help other families. That's compelling. Me. I'm not sure I'm interesting enough for a newspaper feature. Rebecca. With all due respect, Ms. Chen, let me be the judge of that. Are you available this week? I agreed to the interview, more out of surprise than anything else. When I told Marcus, he was thrilled. Marcus. Mom, this is amazing. Your story deserves to be told. Me. I didn't do anything special. I just did what I had to do. Marcus. That's exactly what makes it special. You didn't think of yourself as heroic or extraordinary. You just kept going, kept loving, kept believing things could get better. That's the story people need to hear. The interview was harder than I expected. Rebecca asked about the difficult years, the struggles, the loneliness. She asked about my relationship with Marcus, how it had evolved, what I'd learned. She asked about Renata, though I kept those answers brief and diplomatic, but she also asked about joy, about what brought me happiness now, about what advice I'd give to other single parents struggling to make ends meet. Me. I'd tell them that your worth isn't measured by your bank account or your zip code. I'd tell them that the love you give your children, the values you teach them, those matter more than any material thing you can provide. But I'd also tell them, and this is important, that it's okay to accept help. It's okay to be vulnerable. Strength isn't just about enduring alone. Sometimes it's about letting people who love you share your burdens. Rebecca, that sounds like a lesson you learned the hard way. Me, the best lessons usually are. The article came out 2 weeks later. It was a full-page feature with photos of Marcus and me in the office, at a scholarship event, and in my kitchen making dumplings. The headline read, From Single Mother to Successful Executive, Diana Chen's Journey of Resilience and Redemption. I cried when I read it. Not sad tears, but tears of recognition. The woman in that article, the one who had struggled and persevered and eventually learned to accept love and help, that was me. That was my story. And it was worth telling. The article brought unexpected attention. Other single parents reached out, thanking me for sharing my story. Some asked for advice. Others just wanted to connect, to feel less alone. I started volunteering as a mentor for a local organization that supported single-parent families. One woman I mentored, a young mother named Lisa Rodriguez, reminded me so much of my younger self. She was working 2 jobs, raising a 6-year-old daughter alone, terrified of not being enough. Lisa, how did you do it? How did you keep going when everything felt impossible? Me, I'm not sure I have a good answer to that. Some days I just put one foot in front of the other. But I think the key was remembering that hard doesn't mean hopeless. Every difficult day was still just one day. And eventually, those days added up to a life. Lisa, I'm so scared I'm failing her, that she'll grow up and resent me for not giving her more. Me, can I tell you something? My son became a millionaire. He could buy anything he wants. And you know what he values most? Sunday afternoons cooking recipes his grandmother left behind. Time spent together without pretense or pressure. The values I taught him when we had nothing. Your daughter won't remember every toy she didn't get or every vacation you couldn't afford. She'll remember that you loved her, that you showed up for her, that you never gave up. Lisa, how do I make sure I'm teaching her the right things? Me, by being honest with her about struggles, but also showing her how to face them with dignity. By modeling resilience. By letting her see that it's okay to ask for help, that it's okay to be human. I spent too many years trying to hide my struggles from my son, trying to appear stronger than I felt. I wish I'd let him see more of my humanity. It would have made things easier for both of us later. These conversations, this mentoring, it gave new meaning to everything I'd been through. My struggles weren't just obstacles I'd overcome. They were lessons I could share, wisdom I could pass on to others walking similar paths. Marcus's scholarship fund expanded. We added mentorship components, pairing recipients with professionals in their chosen fields. Marcus brought in other successful entrepreneurs who had come from humble backgrounds. Together, we built something bigger than either of us could have alone. At our 4th annual scholarship ceremony, Marcus asked me to give the keynote speech. I was terrified. Public speaking had never been my strength. But I agreed. Standing in front of 200 people, looking out at the scholarship recipients and their families, I shared my story. I talked about the struggles, yes, but also about the unexpected gifts that came from them. The strength I didn't know I had. The creativity poverty demands. The deep appreciation for simple joys. The unshakable bond with my son, tested but ultimately stronger for having been challenged. I talked about mistakes I'd made, lessons learned too late. I talked about pride and how it can become a prison. I talked about the freedom that comes from accepting help, from admitting you don't have all the answers, from allowing others to love you in the ways they're capable of loving. And I talked about hope. Real hope, not the naive kind that ignores reality, but the stubborn kind that persists despite reality. The hope that says today might be hard, but tomorrow could be different. The hope that believes in the possibility of change, of growth, of redemption. When I finished, the applause was overwhelming. But what moved me most was seeing Marcus in the front row, tears streaming down his face, looking at me with such love and pride. After the ceremony, a young man approached me. He was one of our first scholarship recipients, now in his 3rd year of music school. Young man, Ms. Chen, thank you for that speech. I needed to hear it. Me, I'm glad it resonated with you. Young man, my mom is here tonight. She's like you were, working multiple jobs, struggling to keep everything together, too proud to accept help even when it's offered. I've been trying to convince her to let me help now that I have a part-time job, but she refuses. Me, bring her over here. He did. His mother, a tired-looking woman in her early 40s, shook my hand nervously. Mother, thank you so much for what you've done for my son. This scholarship changed our lives. Me, can I share something with you, mother to mother? She nodded. Me, your son wants to help you because you've helped him his entire life. Not just financially, but by showing him what dedication and love look like. When he offers to help with groceries or bills, he's not saying you're failing. He's saying thank you. He's saying I learned generosity from you, and now I want to give back. Let him. It's part of his growth, part of becoming the man you raised him to be. She started crying, and her son put his arm around her. Mother, it's so hard to accept. I'm supposed to be the one taking care of him. Me, you did take care of him. You did such a good job that he's now capable of taking care of others, including you. That's not failure. That's success. Let him love you the way you taught him to love. I watched them walk away together, talking quietly, and I felt something settle in my heart. This was the point of it all. Not the money or the recognition or even the personal transformation. It was this: taking what we've learned from our struggles and using it to ease someone else's path. That's redemption. That's purpose. Later that night, Marcus drove me home. We were quiet for a while, comfortable in the silence. Marcus: Mom, can I ask you something? Me: always. Marcus: do you ever regret it? The years of struggle, the sacrifices, all of it? Me: that's a complicated question. Marcus: I know. Me: I regret that it was necessary. I regret that we live in a world where single parents have to work themselves to exhaustion just to keep their kids fed and housed. I regret that I didn't have more support, more resources, more help. Marcus: but? Me: but I don't regret who those experiences made me, and I certainly don't regret who they helped you become. If I could go back and have an easier path, but it meant you turned out differently, I wouldn't take it. Marcus: even knowing what Renata put you through? What I put you through? Me: even then. Because we came out the other side, didn't we? We found our way back to each other. We built something beautiful from the broken pieces. That's worth every hard day, every sleepless night, every moment I thought I couldn't go on. Marcus pulled up in front of my building but didn't turn off the car. Marcus: I have something to tell you. I've been seeing someone. My heart jumped, but I kept my voice calm. Me: tell me about her. Marcus: her name is Amanda Park. She's a social worker. We met at a volunteer event for the scholarship fund. She's smart, kind, and completely unimpressed by money or status. Me: she sounds wonderful. Marcus: she is. And Mom, I want you to meet her, but I want to do it right this time. No pressure, no expectations. Just dinner, the three of us, casual and real. Me: I'd like that. Marcus: there's something else. Amanda knows about everything. About Renata, about our rocky period, about all of it. I didn't want to start a relationship with secrets or pretense. I wanted her to know exactly who I am and where I come from. Me: how did she react? Marcus: she said it made her respect me more. She said the fact that we worked through it, that we were both willing to grow and change, that showed real character. Me: I like her already. Marcus: she wants to meet you. She's actually a little nervous about it, if you can believe that. She knows how important you are to me. Me: when? Marcus: next Sunday? Instead of our usual cooking session, maybe we could all cook together? Amanda loves to cook, and I thought it might be a good way to break the ice. Me: perfect. That next Sunday, I met Amanda Park. She arrived at my apartment with a bottle of wine and a nervous smile. She was beautiful in an understated way, wearing jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Amanda: Ms. Chen, thank you so much for having me. I've heard so much about you. Me: please, call me Diana. And I hope you've heard at least some good things. Amanda: all good things. Marcus talks about you constantly, about your cooking sessions, about the scholarship fund, about everything you've overcome. We cooked together, the three of us making a complicated Vietnamese dish from Grandma's notebook. Amanda fit right in, laughing at our kitchen mishaps, sharing her own family stories, asking genuine questions about the recipes and their history. At one point, while Marcus was running to the corner store for an ingredient we'd forgotten, Amanda turned to me. Amanda: can I be honest with you about something? Me: of course. Amanda: I was terrified to meet you. Not because I thought you'd be mean or judgmental, but because Marcus has set such a high bar. The way he talks about you, about your relationship, about what you mean to him. I was afraid I'd somehow not measure up. Me: Amanda, I'm not a standard you need to meet. I'm just a mother who wants her son to be happy. Amanda: that's what Marcus said you'd say. But I want you to know something. I have no interest in coming between you and Marcus. I've seen what that looks like, and I would never want that for him or for you. Me: I appreciate that. But I also want you to know that having a close relationship with Marcus's mother shouldn't be a burden or an obligation. If we develop our own friendship, wonderful. If not, that's okay too. What matters is that you and Marcus love each other and build something authentic together. Amanda. We do love each other. It's still early, but it's real. He's different from anyone I've ever been with. More genuine, more grounded, and I know a lot of that comes from you, from how you raised him. Me. He's different because he learned some hard lessons. We both did. Amanda. He told me about Renata, about how she tried to change him. I want you to know that I love Marcus exactly as he is. The piano playing, the Sunday cooking sessions with his mom, the late-night conversations about philosophy, all of it. I don't want to change him. I want to grow with him. When Marcus returned, he found us laughing together over a story Amanda was telling about her own mother's cooking disasters. The relief on his face was palpable. Over the next year, Amanda became part of our lives. She joined our Sunday cooking sessions sometimes, bringing her own family recipes to add to our collection. She volunteered with the scholarship fund, using her social work background to help us better support recipients who were dealing with difficult home situations. She was kind, genuine, and most importantly, she made Marcus happy in a way I hadn't seen since he was a child. They got engaged on a quiet Tuesday evening. No flashy proposal, no expensive ring at first. Marcus called me right after. Marcus, Mom, I asked Amanda to marry me. Me. And? Marcus. She said yes, we're getting married. Me. Oh, Marcus, I'm so happy for you. Marcus. We want to do it small. Just close family and friends. And Mom, Amanda, and I were talking. We'd like you to officiate, if you're comfortable with that. Me. Me? Officiate your wedding? Marcus. You're the one who taught me what love and commitment really mean. It feels right to have you be the one to marry us. I got ordained online and spent weeks preparing for the ceremony. Amanda and I worked together on the vows and the readings. She shared her vision for the wedding, simple and meaningful, and asked for my input on everything. The wedding was in a small garden in the fall, maybe 40 people total. I stood before Marcus and Amanda, these two people I'd come to love deeply, and spoke about love as I'd come to understand it. Me. Love isn't about perfection. It's not about finding someone who completes you or fixes you. Love is about finding someone who sees you fully, flaws and all, and chooses you anyway. It's about building something together, day by day, through both joy and struggle. It's about being willing to grow, to change, to admit when you're wrong and work to do better. I looked at Marcus. Me. Marcus, you've taught me that love requires courage. The courage to be vulnerable, to admit your mistakes, to start over when necessary. The courage to choose authenticity over comfort. Then at Amanda. Me. Amanda. You've shown me that love can be gentle and strong at the same time. That true partnership doesn't require anyone to diminish themselves. That we can hold space for each other's growth while maintaining our own identities. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden, including mine. After the ceremony, during the reception, Amanda pulled me aside. Amanda. Thank you, Diana, for everything. For raising Marcus to be who he is, for welcoming me, for this beautiful ceremony. Me. You make him happy. That's all I've ever wanted. Amanda. I have something for you. Marcus and I talked, and we wanted you to have this. She handed me a small box. Inside was a necklace with a pendant shaped like a tree. Amanda. It's a family tree. See? There are small stones representing each member. This ruby is you, the sapphire is Marcus, the emerald is me. And these empty settings? Those are for the family we'll continue to build. Children, maybe, more branches of this tree. We wanted you to know that you're not just Marcus's past. You're our future, too. I couldn't speak. I just hugged her, this woman who understood what it meant to build family with intention and love. Looking back now from this vantage point of peace and contentment, I can see the entire journey clearly. That painful Mother's Day phone call wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning. The beginning of honest conversations, of growth, of transformation. I think about Renata sometimes. I don't hate her. I pity her, actually. She was so focused on status and appearances that she missed the opportunity to know a genuinely good man. She weaponized class differences instead of seeing them as irrelevant to character. She lost something precious because she couldn't see past her own prejudices. But more than that, I think about who I was before that phone call and who I am now. The old Diana would have taken that question about thanking Renata and swallowed her hurt. She would have apologized, even though she'd done nothing wrong. She would have made herself smaller to keep the peace. The new Diana spoke up. She stood her ground, and in doing so, she opened the door for Marcus to question things too, to examine his choices, to find his way back to himself. The scholarship fund continues to grow. We've now helped over 60 students pursue their dreams in the arts. Some have gone on to successful careers. Others discovered new passions along the way. All of them learned that their circumstances don't define their potential. My career flourishes. I was promoted to Vice President of Operations last year. I have a team of 15 people working under me. I mentor young professionals, especially women and single parents. I'm good at what I do, and I no longer feel guilty about acknowledging that. My relationship with Marcus is stronger than ever. We still have our Sunday cooking sessions, now sometimes joined by Amanda and occasionally by the friends we've made through the scholarship fund. We've worked through Grandma's entire notebook and started creating our own, adding recipes and stories for the next generation. Amanda is pregnant. They told me last month, swearing me to secrecy until they were ready to announce it publicly. I'm going to be a grandmother. Me, Diana Chen, who once thought I'd be alone forever, who built walls so high I almost couldn't find my way back out, I'm going to be a grandmother. When they told me, we were having dinner at my apartment. It was a regular Sunday, and we'd just finished making dumplings together. Amanda had been quieter than usual, and I'd noticed her barely touching her wine. Marcus looked at Amanda, and she nodded. He took a deep breath. Marcus. Mom, we have something to tell you. Amanda's pregnant. We're having a baby. Time stopped. I looked at Amanda, at the slight swell of her belly that I'd attributed to the dumplings, at the glow on her face that I now recognized as more than just happiness. I looked at Marcus, at the mixture of excitement and nervousness in his eyes, and then I burst into tears. Not sad tears, not worried tears, but tears of overwhelming joy and disbelief. A grandchild. I was going to have a grandchild. Me. How far along? Amanda. 14 weeks. We wanted to wait until the second trimester to tell people, to make sure everything was okay. But you're the first person we're telling outside of our doctors. Me. I'm honored. So honored. How are you feeling? Amanda. Exhausted and nauseous and terrified and excited all at the same time. Marcus. We're both terrified, honestly. What if we mess up? What if we're not ready? I reached across the table and took both their hands. Me. You're going to be wonderful parents. You're going to make mistakes, yes, but you'll also love this child fiercely. And you won't be alone. I'll be here, whatever you need. Over the next few weeks, I found myself thinking constantly about the baby. What would they look like? Would they have Marcus's eyes, Amanda's smile? Would they be musical like Marcus or passionate about social justice like Amanda? But more than that, I thought about what kind of grandmother I wanted to be. I didn't want to be the kind who imposed my opinions or made everything about me. I didn't want to be the kind who competed with Amanda's mother or made anyone feel guilty. I wanted to be present, supportive, and respectful of Marcus and Amanda's parenting choices. I called Dr. Okonkwo to discuss it in our next session. Me. I'm going to be a grandmother, and I'm terrified of repeating my mistakes. Dr. Okonkwo. What mistakes are you afraid of repeating? Me. Being too proud to ask for help. Being so focused on doing everything myself that I miss out on connections with others. Teaching this child the same patterns of shame and isolation that I had to unlearn. Dr. Okonkwo. Diana, the fact that you're aware of these patterns means you're already breaking them. You're not the same woman you were 3 years ago. You've done the work. Trust that. Me. But what if it's not enough? What if when I'm sleep-deprived and stressed, I fall back into old habits? Dr. Okonkwo. Then you'll recognize it, apologize if necessary, and course correct. That's all any of us can do. Perfection isn't the goal. Awareness and willingness to grow, that's the goal. I started buying things for the baby. Small things at first. A soft blanket, a book of Chinese lullabies that my mother used to sing to me, a set of building blocks. Each purchase felt like an act of faith, a declaration that this child would be loved and supported. One day, Amanda asked if I wanted to go to one of her prenatal appointments. Marcus had a work conflict and couldn't make it, and she didn't want to go alone. Amanda. I know it's a lot to ask, and you probably have work, but would you be able to come with me? It's just an ultrasound, but I'd feel better having someone there. Me. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Sitting in that doctor's office, watching the ultrasound screen flicker to life, seeing the tiny form of my grandchild moving and growing, I felt something I'd never felt before. A connection that transcended my own life, my own experiences. This child was the future. This child represented hope and possibility, and the continuation of our family story. The technician pointed out features. The head, the hands, the heart beating steadily. Technician. Everything looks perfect. Strong heartbeat, good growth. Do you want to know the sex? Amanda looked at me. Amanda. What do you think, Diana? Should we find out? Me. It's your decision. I'll be thrilled either way. Amanda. Let's find out. Marcus will just have to deal with being surprised by proxy. Technician. It's a girl. Congratulations. A girl. A granddaughter. I watched Amanda's face light up with joy and saw tears streaming down her cheeks. I realized I was crying too. In the parking lot afterward, Amanda turned to me. Amanda, thank you for being here. It meant a lot, sharing that moment with you. Me. Thank you for including me. I know I'm not your mother, but I hope we can build our own relationship. Amanda. Diana. You are family. Not because you have to be, but because I choose you to be. This baby girl, she's going to know her Ama. She's going to hear stories about how you raised Marcus alone, how you built a scholarship fund to help other kids, how you learned to accept love even when it was scary. That's the legacy I want her to inherit. Me. I'm going to cry again. Amanda. Good. I'm already crying, so we can be crying messes together. We hugged in that parking lot, two women from different backgrounds and generations, united by love for the same man and excitement for the future. The other day, Marcus asked me what I wanted to be called. Grandma? Grandmother? Nana? Me. What did you call my mother? Marcus. Ama. Me. Then that's what I'll be. Ama. Continuing the tradition. Marcus. She'd like that. Wherever she is, she'd like that. I think he's right. My mother, who worked herself to exhaustion trying to provide for me, who never let me see her cry even though she must have, who taught me resilience through example, she would be proud of where we've ended up. Not because of the money or the success, but because we've learned what really matters. My mother never got to meet Marcus as an adult. She died when he was 12, before she could see him graduate high school or college, before she could see him become successful, before she could know that her sacrifices weren't in vain. But through this granddaughter, through the name Ama, her presence will continue. Her strength, her determination, her love, it all lives on. Last Mother's Day, Marcus and Amanda took me to brunch. Nothing fancy, just a local cafe we all love. Over pancakes and coffee, Amanda handed me a card. Inside, Marcus had written, "Mom, every day I'm grateful for your strength, your love, and your willingness to grow alongside me. Thank you for never giving up, on yourself or on us. Thank you for teaching me that redemption is always possible, that we can always choose to be better. Happy Mother's Day to the woman who showed me what unconditional love really means." Underneath, Amanda had added, "Diana, thank you for raising a man who knows how to love fully and honestly. Thank you for welcoming me into your family with open arms. I'm honored to learn from you as I prepare to become a mother myself. You've set an incredible example. I cried, of course, but they were good tears, healing tears, the kind that wash away old pain and make room for new joy. That painful question 3 years ago, Marcus asking if I'd thanked Renata, it broke something open. But sometimes things need to break before they can be rebuilt stronger. Sometimes we need to fall apart to come back together more authentically. I'm not the same woman I was before. I'm softer in some ways, harder in others. I've learned to accept help without feeling diminished. I've learned that vulnerability is strength, that admitting you don't have all the answers opens the door to finding better ones. I've learned that being a good mother doesn't mean sacrificing everything. It means modeling healthy boundaries, authentic relationships, and continuous growth. It means letting your children see your humanity, your struggles, and your triumphs. Most importantly, I've learned that it's never too late to change, to heal, to build something better. Whether you're 20 or 50 or 80, you can choose differently. You can break old patterns. You can create new traditions. As I sit here now, in the apartment I've made into a real home, surrounded by photos of scholarship recipients and family dinners, I feel something I didn't think I'd ever feel. Complete. Not because everything is perfect, because it's not, but because I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm meant to do, surrounded by people who love me for who I truly am. The journey from that painful Mother's Day to this moment of peace wasn't easy. There were setbacks, difficult conversations, moments of doubt, but every step was worth it. Every tear, every hard truth, every moment of discomfort, they all led here. And here is good. Here is real. Here is home. So if I could go back to that moment, to Diana standing in her kitchen holding expensive roses and hearing her son question her gratitude, what would I tell her? I'd tell her that this pain is temporary, but the growth is permanent. I'd tell her to speak her truth, even when it's scary. I'd tell her that sometimes love requires us to be honest about being hurt. I'd tell her that the relationship she's afraid of losing is actually about to become deeper and more authentic than she ever imagined. But mostly, I'd tell her what I now know to be true. That she is enough. She always was. She didn't need to be perfect, or to have all the answers, or to sacrifice herself completely to be a good mother. She just needed to love her son honestly, to keep showing up, and to believe that better things were possible. Because they were, they are, and they will continue to be. That's the real gift of this journey. Not the career success, or the financial stability, or even the healed relationship with Marcus, though those are all wonderful. The real gift is learning that I deserve good things, that my story matters, that my struggles have value, and that accepting love is not a weakness, but a profound act of courage. As I prepare to meet my grandchild, to step into this new role, I carry these lessons with me. I'll make mistakes, I'm sure, but I'll also be honest about them. I'll model resilience, but also vulnerability. I'll show this child that family is built through intention and effort, that love sometimes requires difficult conversations, and that it's always worth fighting for connection. And someday, when this child is old enough to understand, I'll tell them the story of that Mother's Day, of the question that broke everything open, of the grandmother who learned that it's never too late to become who you're meant to be. Because that's the truth I've discovered. Transformation doesn't have an age limit. Healing doesn't expire. The possibility of beginning again exists in every moment if we're brave enough to reach for it. And I did reach for it. We both did, Marcus and I. We reached for honesty, for authenticity, for the messy, beautiful reality of loving each other fully. And in doing so, we found something more precious than comfort or status, or maintaining appearances. We found ourselves. We found each other. We found home.